Week 7 of the Coach Show. Here with Coach Brandon Smith. Last week, big win against Pulaski County, 35-0. What was your overall thoughts on how the game went?
I was pretty pleased. I thought that it was, it's a big time game, great high school atmosphere. Thought it would be going into it, but it definitely was when we showed up. They had a bunch of people there, big crowd, tailgating before the game, whole thing. And I thought our kids, had the right mindset, right frame of mind. They came in focused. And executed the plan, made plays when they had to, and really took care of business.
We'll get into the offensive side of the ball. 35 points, 416 total yards, 133 rush yards, 283 passing yards. Quarterbacks Cam Page and Chase Bell combined for 21 completions on 30 attempts for a total of 244 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Seems like every week we talk about the efficiency at the quarterback position. But what does the coaching staff emphasize on a week-to-week basis about getting these guys in good rhythm and really making them effective every game?
Yeah, I think exactly what you said there. Efficiency is what the key is when we talk about it's all about decision making. Knowing the reads, making the correct decisions. Not trying to score touchdowns every play. Just trying to get first downs and. Like I've said before, I really pay attention to, the one turnovers. That's the most important job is to take care of the ball as a quarterback. But, after that, completion percentage. Basically you give your guys a shot. Get them the ball, let them see what they can do with it, those type of things. And they've done a really good job with that throughout the year. So I'm really pleased at the progress those guys have made. First year guys, new to the position, all that type of stuff. And, I think they've done a really good job to this point of, like you said, being efficient with the offense, making good decisions, and letting those guys, giving the ball to the guys that are playmakers and letting them, do their thing.
Another big rushing performance for running back Kayden York, total of 95 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. We know he's a big part of the offense week in and week out, but how did he find so much success in this game specifically?
Yeah, he just tends to show up in the big games, and he did again. He had a really nice night on the ground. Did a nice job with his reads. Made good cuts, and then broke. Just doing what he does. He broke tackles. He broke a couple tackles. Ended up in a really long run. Right out of halftime when we needed it. Just tremendous job, tremendous effort. Did the same thing defensively. That kid's just a warrior.
Jay Carter had another big game, tallying 8 receptions for 100 yards. Zay Bridges had 3 receptions for 73 yards, and Griffin Reynolds had 4 receptions for 43 yards and a touchdown. I noticed on the year, 8 different players have a touchdown reception. What is different about this receiving core, and what makes them so successful?
I think exactly that is it's not one guy. We've Coach McLeod's been with me for a long time since the beginning, and that's always a goal of ours. You don't ever want to be an offense where it's just one guy. That's easy to defend. And I think Friday night we had 11 different people that touched the ball in some capacity, and that makes it really hard defensively when you got to defend everybody and everybody's a threat and everybody's touching it. So. That's the goal. We try to do that, and these guys they buy into it. It's a very selfless group. That roots for the other guys, and they buy into the fact that everybody's going to touch it. And I got to do my job on every play to make sure that happens. So those guys have done a really good job at this point.
We'll get into the defensive side of the ball. This is a big defensive game. Pitched a shutout, 0 points, 135 total yards allowed. 43 rush yards, 92 pass yards, 14 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, 2 interceptions, 1 defensive touchdown. Like I mentioned, defense pitched a shutout this week for the first time. It seems like the defense has found their identity in stopping the run, only gave up 43 rush yards, so have yet to give up over 100 rush yards in a game this season. How's the defense been able to be this consistent all year?
I thought they played really well Friday. Pulaski County is a really good team. They got a really good offense, and they specialize in running the ball. And, the defense, I thought had a good week of preparation, prepared really well. and then they came in and executed. And I thought what they did Friday night was not easy, so it was one of their better performances up front. And it was a team effort, all across the board, D-line, linebackers, DBs, did a really nice job. And, I think they've had some ups and downs throughout the season, but like you said, trying to find some consistency here on out with that, and being more consistent, with our reads and our fits and those type things. But they had a nice performance Friday.
14 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, 2 interceptions, 1 defensive touchdown. The big stat that sticks out to me here is 14 tackles for loss. The defense is averaging 9 tackles for loss per game this season. What type of buy-in and culture do the players have to be this consistent week in and week out on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, exactly what you said, buying in, and I think they did, and they have. And, they kind of took the challenge because we challenged them, especially after Hopkinsville game. I think Hopkinsville probably had the most success on the ground against us. So, kind of regrouping and buying into the keys and the reads, and then, playing aggressive, not just kind of waiting to see what's going on. You make things happen, and that's where your tackles for loss come into play. And like I said, they had a really nice performance Friday.
Upcoming game this week, opening district play against Meade County. They're 0-6 this year, coming off a 61-7 loss this past week. What's your expectations this week for this game?
Well, I mean, you're kind of moving into a different phase of the season. We've moved past all the non-district games. Now we're getting into the district games where there's direct consequences. So you're talking about the first 2 rounds of playoffs, playing at home versus not playing at home, those type of things. So you kind of switch gears a little bit. The preparation stays the same, but now there's a consequence for the winner and the loser of the game. And so keeping the focus, keeping the drive going, and then you want to keep progressing. The ultimate goal is November, not necessarily September and October. So trying to keep the focus on our team and progressing week to week and trying to get better each week.
Top-notch fan question of the week comes from Emily Jewell. The question is, describe your team in 1 word.
That is a good question. I would probably say, to this point, I would say resilient. I think it's a resilient group that, especially the senior group, they have never been, the ones out in front. There's always a big class in front of them. And so, overcoming adversity, obstacles and, challenges so far this year, and, to keep showing up every day, wanting to get better, and progressing along and staying the course. So resilient would be the word I would go with.
Top-notch players of the week this week. Offensive player of the games, Kayden York, 95 rush yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 receptions for 12 yards, 107 yards of total offense. Player game on defense, JaQuise Smith, 4 total tackles, 2 solo, 2 assisted, 2 tackles for loss. Speak on what stood out to you this week about both these players' performances.
Yeah, I mean, Kayden is just a warrior, and he's you could have him every single week, but he really had a special performance. I thought Friday, in every capacity, with what he's doing, not just performing, but leadership, his effort, those type of things. And then Keith, dominated the game. Sometimes when you're in the middle there, the stats don't show up, but he absolutely dominated the game. Had a really dominant performance, created a lot of problems for them, helped cause a lot of those TFLs and tackles, and really nice job by both those guys.
This week, the game will be played on Thursday. We'll be set up at the game. We'll be giving away a Yeti cooler, whole home air purifier, and a free year of maintenance. So make sure you come to our tent right inside the gate and enter to win that. Also, at the end of the season, we will also be giving away the free mini split. And don't forget to ask your fan question of the week to win a $10 7 Brew gift card.